passion, or you have to follow the ethics. Okay, that you have to keep in mind. So up to this point, if you have any confusion, what we are trying to do, we are learning certain ethical principle that we need to follow while conducting the research. Okay, so why we need to follow that research? To make or to reflect that whatever tasks we have performed on the correct way. Okay, that is the reflection, and that keeps you from committing errors, means that the falsification of data, fabrication of data, okay, that can be omitted through this ethics. Okay, and it also promotes the accountability, cooperation, mutual respect, and fairness. So for that reason, we need to follow ethics while conducting the research. Okay, so ethical principle that need to be followed while conducting the research. These are the principles you might see on your ethical form also. But let's say, okay, integrity and objectivity of the researcher, respect for other, avoidance of harm, okay, privacy of those taking part, voluntary nature of participation and right to withdraw, informed consent of those taking part, ensuring the confidentiality of data and maintenance of anonymity of those taking part, responsibility in analysis of data and reporting of findings, compliance in the management of data, ensuring the safety of researcher. Okay, so these are the ethical principles that you need to follow while conducting the research. We focus on this kind of thing. Okay, whenever you do, you have to focus on the integrity, objectivity, respect for other, avoidance of harm. Means there might be the solution. Okay, if you are doing research in current scenario also, in this pandemic, if certain research has been taking place, then while doing that research, it should avoid harm to the participant as a researcher also. Okay, there should be avoidance of harm for the participant of your research as well as the researcher also. The safety of the researcher also should be ensured. Okay, so the privacy of those taking part. While uh, talking about this, you collect some demographic information while collecting the data. That demographic information is related with the name, gender, age, phone number, email, or something like that. In case of analysis, okay, if there is analysis part, you can use based on the analysis, there is gender and so on. But the personal information should not be shared with anyone. Okay, because while analysis that information, while analysis that information, those information, name of the person is not needed in analysis. You no need to disclose that information to anyone. Okay, so that kind of things need to be considered. Okay, and the data that you have collected, you should not send that data to other. Okay, without the prior approval of the participant, because that works for the secondary data and data that you have collected. You might think that, okay, I can give that data to other. Okay, that might be possible, but you have to give certain context. Okay, in ethical forms, there is the section where you have to define where the data after your research will be available for or not. Okay, if it is available in what format, and if there is any ethical issue that arise or ethical concern that arise, you have to focus, you have to write that part. Yes, so that need to be done. So voluntary nature of participation will simply uh, discuss here, and there is explanation after this slide also. Okay, so voluntary nature of participation and right to withdraw means, whenever the participant wants to withdraw from your research, suppose he has the set of questionnaire, he have answered the 5 set of questions that you have given, or he is the participation on your observation. Okay, but in the meantime, if he or she thinks that he cannot participate on any research, he can avoid that research and move away. Okay, participant had full authority to be within the research or to withdraw from that research. Okay, and that thing you have to make clear to the participation. Okay, participant, you have to make clear that they can take their participation away at any time of the research. Inform consent of those taking part. You should uh, get the approval. Okay, that inform consent is the approval, that might be in written, that might be verbal or through emails or something like that. Whatever mechanism you use, but you have to get the informed consent or the approval of those taking part. Okay, you have to do that, and you have to keep the evidence of that part, because while showing that the data that you have collected or the research process that you have followed, whether it meets the ethical standard or not, if you cannot show the evidence on that particular context, then that might reflect you have fabricated or falsificated data, and you have written that data on your own. Okay, so while following this ethical principle, there might be the certain evidence that you have to get. Okay, so this kind of thing, the data that you have collected from your participant, whether it is real or not, for that part you have also done in project, you have kept the logbook. Yes, so in research also you can put that logbook. Okay, for visiting the certain organization or the individuals, and then if you keep that logbook, that will reflect or indicate you have met that party individuals or organization participants and collected the data from there. Okay, that will reflect that thing. So ensuring the confidentiality of data and maintenance of anonymity of those taking part. So those individuals, suppose you have the 100 sample, and one is the part that no information should be disclosed out of that 100, but the individuals that are taking part in the research, the one information of the one participant should not be disclosed, another also. Okay, you should not show the response. Okay, suppose some might ask, okay, what the previous responses that we obtained, some might ask for that, and you have to maintain the confidentiality. You should avoid that thing. Okay, and you can tell that participants, uh, I am not capable of providing that information to you. I cannot, because it violates my ethical principle. Okay, there might be the certain case, your participant may ask for the response that you have obtained. You might ask, okay, what are the responses that you obtained from your other participant, please let me know. If that is the context, then you should not provide information to that participant regarding the information that you have collected of other. Okay, so you need to focus on that thing also. You are not allowed it to disclose the information of the one participant to another also. Okay, you should focus on that part also. And whoever responds, you have to maintain the anonymity. Okay, you should not disclose their personal information also. The data that they have given, that also should not be disclosed, and their demographic information, means name, age, or something like that, that thing also should be maintained confidential. Okay, another is responsibility in the analysis of the data and reporting of findings. Okay, so you need to analyze the data according to the data that you have collected. Okay, there is you cannot change the data that you have collected and analyze according to your convenience. You have to analyze according to the data that you have collected from the individual or the participant, and you have to report the finding. But while reporting the finding, there in ethical form, you might see that whether you are going to debrief or you are going to share the finding of your research to your participation or not. That is uh, that is your concern. Okay, you might report the findings to the participants, or you might not. Okay, there might be one case. So you have to be clear on that part, whether you are reporting the findings to the participation of your research or not. Okay, you can choose both way. And when say, if you say yes, then what is the reason, or if you say no, what is the reason, you have to provide that also. Okay, compliance in management of data. Okay, so this relate with the certain data policy. Okay, data policy, as you see in GDPR. Okay, global data protection policy, and other institutional compliance has to be made. Okay, institutional compliance has to be made while maintaining the data or collecting the data and keeping or storing that for certain duration of time. You have to maintain the compliance. Okay, and ensuring the safety of the researcher. So in most of the case, okay, if you are the part of the organization as a researcher, then your organization should ensure the safety of the researcher, because in case if the research is focusing on this, like today like a pandemic, or it is associated with the terrorism or something like that. Okay, in that case, the safety of the researcher need to be ensured. Okay, that is also the ethics. Okay, so these are the basic point. We'll simply discuss some of the explanation, okay, which are important or which need certain explanation. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, Now move on to this explanation. Okay, you might understand some of the concept, but for your clarity, one is the integrity and objectivity of the researcher. Okay, the quality, I've put explanation for some of the important point only. Okay, other you can understand, like respect for other, you can understand that point. So I have not put that explanation for that point. So quality of the research depend in the part of integrity and objectivity of the researcher. This means acting openly, being truthful, and promoting accuracy. Okay. Conversely, it also means avoiding the deception, dishonesty, and misrepresentation of data and findings. So integrity means whatever information that we have obtained from your participation, based on that data, you have analyzed the data and show the meaningful information. So that things need to be maintained throughout the research. That promotes the accuracy, that promotes the truthfulness of a research. Okay. And deception, certain falsification, dishonesty, you are not following what you are doing, or you are doing something that is uh, misrepresented or something like that. Okay, if that is the case, then that need to be avoided. Okay. And partially reckless commitment or the dishonest promises. Okay, there might be certain promises that we have made to the participants. Okay, please provide me this kind of data, and I will share this kind of information or something like that. That also should be avoided. Where appropriate, any conflict of the interest or the commercialization should be declared. Okay, if there is any conflict of interest arises, then you have to declare that part. Okay, to maintain the integrity, that means the accuracy throughout the research. Objectivity means focusing to the main part of the research. Okay, you should not divert from that. Whatever information needed for your research, you just collect that kind of data. Okay, other data need not to be collected, or other information should not be collected from the participants or other individuals. And respect for other, while collecting the data, you have to maintain the certain respect for other, and that is for the collection of data also. It makes easy for you to collect the data, because there, when you prepare the set of questionnaire. Okay, when you prepare the set of questionnaire, suppose you have done on the project, so there are different series of questions. Okay, there is the warm-up questions, there is the transition question, there is the main questions, there are the demographic questions. There are different set of questions that you prepare. Okay, first warm-up or screening question you can ask. So that kind of data makes, that kind of questions or the collection of data makes participation to be interested on your research. You are going to first generate the interest of the participation to your research. Then you need to focus on the core information or core data that you need for your research. You focus on that part. Okay, you do not directly ask the question that is needed for your research, which will be part of analysis. Okay, so for you, first you ask the certain background type of questions, or the screening or warm-up question for the participant. Yes. And after the participants becomes interested, or is ready to give the information that you need, then you need to move on to your core context. Okay, core question, you have to ask the core question that need to be done. And while asking the question, you have to be polite, respectful to others, and you need to brief what you are trying to do, or something like that. Whatever is needed, you have to do. Okay, and whatever information provided by the participants, you should give respect to that participant. Privacy of those taking part. This part I will explain also. You have to maintain the privacy of those taking part. You should not disclose their demographic. Demographic information means name, age, phone number, email address, or permanent address. Okay, citizenship number, any information that is associated with the personal information of that person. Okay, that should not be disclosed. You have to maintain the privacy. Okay, and the individuals that are taking part. Okay, you should not disclose one information with the another also. And another is the voluntary nature of participation and right to withdraw. So this point you might have understand. Yes, uh, as a participant, or as a part of the research. Okay, you are the researcher and other are the participant for your research. So in ethical form also, you can see, you need to inform to the participant. You need to inform before the collection of data. You need to inform, or before taking the approval, you need to inform that though I have taken, or though you have taken approval from the participant, that they will provide the data for your research, but that are not mandatory or the restricted uh, criteria for their involvement. Okay, they can withdraw their participation at any time of research. Okay, any duration of research, they can withdraw their participation. Okay, that you need to focus or make clear to the participant that it's the voluntary nature. They are not compelled to participate throughout your research. Okay, if they feel uncomfortable, if you ask the 5 questions and if they feel uncomfortable, then they can move out from that research. Okay, they are not forced to give that information or data. Okay, you need to make clear that part to the participants. So inform consent of those taking part. Okay, the principle of informed consent involves the researcher providing sufficient information and assurance about taking part to allow individuals to understand the implication of the participant and to reach a fully informed state. Okay, so this approval, you are taking the approval means you are not directly moved to the participant or the organizer or the individuals, and you cannot blindly say, okay, give me this kind of information, I am from this part of. That is not ethical. Okay, that is not ethical. First you have to inform and take the approval from the participant. Okay, that informed consent might be the verbal or written or any mechanism. You can use any mechanism, but you have to take the informed consent from those participating in your research that you have to do. Okay, another is ensuring the confidentiality of data and maintenance of anonymity of those taking part. Okay, so that is ensuring confidentiality of data and maintenance the anonymity of those taking part means one individual that have give response to a set of data or set of questionnaire. Okay, so the information or the individuals should be anonymous to other while analyzing also. Okay, while analyzing, you should not disclose this kind of information is provided by this individual or this kind of information is provided by this individual. That should be maintained anonymous. Okay, no one other need to know that whoever has taken part on your research. Okay, we should not disclose their information. They should be maintained anonymous because that is the ethical principle. Okay, because no need to disclose the personal information or no need to say that this individual give this kind of information or data, so you are analyzing this. Okay, so that thing need to be avoided. Responsibility in the analysis of data and reporting. Okay, while you assure about the privacy, anonymity, and the confidentiality must be upheld when analyzing and reporting data. That is the part. While analyzing also, you have to maintain the confidentiality, and the information should only be disclosed that are meant to be disclosed to other. Okay, you should report the finding that are only necessary, and you might report that finding to the participants or you might not. Okay, that is your choice. You have the flexibility whether you are going to share your findings with your participation or not, report your findings to the participation or not, whatever you do. Then you have to focus on clearly appropriate and accurate analysis of the data, and the finding reporting of the findings should be valid. Okay, that you need to focus. That can be maintained. This kind of things can be maintained if you have collected the data from the reasonable source of information or reasonable source of participant. Okay, if you have collected the valid data, then this will take automatically. If you fabricate certain information while collecting the data, then analysis of data and reporting the finding might not be accurate. Okay, so and that analysis and reporting should be based on the fact that you have collected. That fact is associated with the response that you have obtained from the participant. You have to focus on that part. Okay, you might think the response that we have obtained and analysis show the different result, so you cannot modify that analysis of data or you cannot modify the findings. Okay, you should focus on the analysis on whatever data that you have collected from the participation or individual. Compliance in the management of data, this is mostly associated in while in Europe, it is global data protection policy that need to be followed at its case. In our context, we do not have any sort of compliance of management of data rules. Okay, so basically we follow the other principle also. Okay, ensuring the safety of the researcher. If an organization is conducting the research, okay, if an organization is conducting the research and hire the researcher for its job, So at that time, the organization should ensure the safety of the researcher. Okay, in some certain contexts, I've already mentioned in the current scenario, due to in this current pandemic, if certain researchers are involved to do the research, then that their safety needs to be assured. And in certain cases regarding the terrorism or something like that, okay, which is dangerous for the researcher, then the safety of the researcher has to be ensured. Okay, that is also the one of the ethical principle. So these are the ethical principle. If you have any confusion, please let me know. Any questions? What we need to think, we need to there are certain ethical principles that you need to follow. You need to keep in that mind, okay? And you have to think of this ethical principle while conducting the research. This necessity, okay, this necessity already been studied. I think already we have studied on the importance, why ethics is importance or something like that. We have discussed on the previous slide. So basically, to avoid the poor practice, malpractice or harm, as well as to promote the ethical practice and private or public goods, okay, the code of ethics are intended to be used, okay. These are made for as a part of the research to avoid the poor practice, because as a researcher, if you are not ethically biased, then you have the flexibility, or you can collect the data from anywhere of any source without defining the source, analysis based on your own confidential comfortable level or convenience, okay, analysis based on your own convenience or something like that. So that will lead to malpractice or the poor practice, okay. So for that also, to improve that kind of thing, the code of ethics has been developed, and to avoid the harm or at least minimize it, okay, for certain kind of risks that are associated on the research, that ethical concern are also needed. So these are the things. Now we are moving on to the assessing risks in the research. So can you uh, please read this? It is not so related in our context, okay, in our context, but whenever it is, okay, if you are doing the certain research in certain scenario, in current scenario also, if you are planning to go to the organizer or individual to collect the data, then there is certain risks associated with that. Yes, there are certain risks associated with that. So you might assess that risk, you might plan how to minimize that risk or avoid that risks, okay. You should do certain plan. If after 1 month when you collect the data, this situation might be a bit normal, so you might plan to visit an organization and collect the data. If you are planning to that, you have to be certain, you have to follow the certain precaution while collecting the data, okay, in the current scenario. So if there is any risks that are associated with your research, you should assess before execution of the research, okay. Before execution of the research, you have to focus on this part. So can you please read this slide, and if you do not understand anything, please let me know. You have 1 minute duration, okay. After this, we'll discuss on ethical form also, okay. Those who have started to fill that ethical form, you might have certain problem on that case. There is other also, okay. Please read this also. So any confusion regarding this part? These are the different contexts that you have to analyze. Okay, all might not be applicable in your context. Based on your nature of your research, these risks are assessed. Okay, so if your research is causing any disruption, okay, if how disruptive is your proposed research method or the method, how sensitive are your proposed question, observations, source, or the request for data, can you justify your choice of research method or the methods and tactics in particular, can you explain why alternatives that involve fear potential risks cannot be used. Okay, if there is any alternative method which have low risks and you aren't implementing that thing, and why you are using this method. Okay, there might be the certain context. So these are the things you need to anticipate if there is any before the execution of research. Okay, these are the things. So any questions you have? If you have any questions, you can ask me. Okay, basically you need to understand there are certain ethical principles that you need to follow while conducting the research. Okay, that all ethical principle might not be necessary for your context, but whatever is applicable in your research, you should use that thing. Okay, you should use that thing because management or compliance of the data, we have not certain set of standard rules or regulation to guide the compliance of the data, so that need to be followed. It that does not mean the data should be haphazardly used or misrepresent or you have to trade in some way, but also that is not applicable in our context, just focusing on that case. Okay, so any questions on this part? If you have any questions, you can ask me, otherwise I will move onto the ethical form. Okay, I'll move to ethical form. If you have any questions, almost.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, so we'll move on ethical form. Okay, once again, you might have started to fill the ethical form. I have uploaded the ethical form in your file section. Yes, have you downloaded it? Have you seen? So when you move on the file section of the research, you can see research ethics approval form SMT. Okay. Okay, I like to show that. So have you started to fill that ethical form? Those who have selected the title or get approval of the title.
No, sir.
You have to do this. Okay, you have to submit. Uh, while you submit here, so can you see this old document that I have shared to you?
Yes, sir.
So can you open on your file section also if possible, because please review that from top to bottom and you can ask me if there is any problem. Okay, because whenever it always says, okay, is in section 3 participant, please answer. Okay, will your research involves domain participation? That will give rise to this kind of context. And if your studies involves the questionnaire only, okay, I've already mentioned, if your study involves the questionnaire, you have to answer this. If your study involves the observation, you have to focus on that, this context. And fourth is the data storage and security. Okay, this is the compliance of management of data. Okay, compliance of data. So we do not follow this in our context, but what we follow is the course content of that uk. So we need to confirm that we follow the Data Protection Act that is set by UK. Okay. So there is another thing, yes, that is also ethical.
So we need to take yes or no.
Yes.
So in that part, we need to take yes or no. Confirm that personal data will be stored.
Who will assist the data and personal information?
No. Above.
Above the
Data
confirm.
Protection Act.
Yeah,
We need to
we
take
take
yes or no.
Simply yes. Yes. Because we need to follow certain act. Okay. If we say no, then that might violates the Pearson course. Yes. In case if you go for the higher national or something like that, then your research, if you submit your research ethics and if your report or something like that, and if it's indicate that you have not followed it, the Data Protection Act, then that shows it unethical. So whatever it is, whether we follow or whether it is applicable in our context or not, we simply take S in this context. Okay. Okay. So another is we will have access to the data and personal other things. This you can do. I think there is no problem. And this how you will identify the respondent. Okay, that you need to describe. If there is certain human participant in your research, then how will you identify the respondent? Okay, there might be the different respondent, different organization. Okay, for your domain to collect the data. Then how will you will identify these are the potential candidate or potential participant for my research. Okay, how you will identify based on your objective, based on your certain criteria that you have set, based on your convenience or something like that, how you will identify. Okay, there might be the certain context. You have to describe the process you will use to inform the participants about what you are doing. Okay, and how you obtain the consent from the participant. Will this be written? How will it be made clear to the participant that they may withdraw the consent to the participant and so that thing. Okay, how you will make clear, you have to describe here, you have to write. And if your study involves the questionnaire, means if you have chosen questionnaire as the data collection method, then these two things need to be filled. And if your study involves the observation, then this thing need to be filled. Okay, so there might be the question, if other part, if the interview is involved, then what we have to do while doing the interview. Okay, interview or unstructured interview, or there might be other data collection method also. So while collecting that also, if there is any ethical concern, then you can apply or use. Okay, there is the certain method, and based on that method, if there is any ethical issue, you have to address that part. And for data storage, okay, and that data storage during the research, after the research, okay, that are the tentative plan. Okay, that are the tentative plan. So whatever you do, you do in the correct way. If you provide the information to other also, you should bind them to some ethical aspect of the research, so you can bind them. Yes, you will keep only the information that is needed. You will not disclose the you should not disclose the any other demographic information. Just provide the information that is needed for other part of the research. Okay, you can do that part. Okay, so please see this ethical form, and if you have any questions, you can ask me. Okay, if you feel any problem while filling this ethical form, you can simply ask me. Okay, you need to submit this ethical form. This is mandatory. Okay, you need to submit, or you need to fill this ethical form and submit no longer than the submission of your proposal. Proposal को डेट भन्दा पछाडि हैन, प्रपोजल को डेट सम्मलाई पहिला हो भने त पहिले यो इथिकल फर्म 1 विकमा सबमिट गर्ने, त्यसपछि प्रपोजल, त्यसपछि प्रेजेन्टेसन, त्यसरी हुन्थ्यो। तर अहिले अब एक हप्तामै स्टुडेन्टले यो भर्न अलिक गाह्रो देखिया भएर चाहिँ प्रपोजलको अगाडिसम्म, किनभने इथिक्सले चाहिँ एक्जिक्युसनलाई बाइन्ड गर्छ, एक्जिक्युसन अफ द रिसर्च एनालाइसिस पार्टहरूलाई चाहिँ बाइन्ड गर्ने भएको भएर बिफोर or at the last date of submission of the proposal, this ethical form need to be submitted. Right? This must be submitted. This is mandatory to submit. Okay, if there is any issue, ethical issue. You have to check and declaration. You can understand, and name, signature, and date. So that date, not after the submission of your proposal. Okay, you have to focus that thing. So please see by yourself also this ethical form, and if you have any confusion, you can ask me. Okay. And tomorrow we'll start with the research methodology. Okay, tomorrow we'll start with the research methodology, and that will be the most important part of the research. Okay, designing the research method is a core important part while writing the proposal. Okay, this strategy that you need to choose, or the method that you are going to choose, we'll discuss on the different aspect of the research, designing the research. Okay, we will start from tomorrow, and you can have a look on the research methodology or research onion. Okay, we'll discuss on the research onion that will provide a basic framework for designing the research method. Okay, so we'll study that part tomorrow. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Any questions? Neeraj sister, Rahul. Okay.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. So today we'll end our class, and tomorrow we'll start with the research methodology. Okay.